What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Rambling Men Sports Talk Show. Special one, I got my good buddy Taylor back. I bug him. He can vouch for me. I bug him just about every week to come on because I had you on a few weeks ago, and you loved it, and you texted me a few times after that, like, "Hey, man, I want to come back, and then it didn't line up. And then when I was free, I kept bugging you to come back on, and you were like, "Oh, I'm busy, I can't do it." And now I have you back on finally.
Moving's terrible. I don't recommend it.
Dude, you've been moving like the last 3 weeks. It took me 3 days to move.
Yeah, but it was a one-bedroom apartment. I was on the 3rd floor without an elevator, and I was doing it by myself.
So?
It was terrible.
I've only lived on 1 floor.
Yeah, so it's way easier on the 1st floor because I moved into a 1st floor.
When I moved from Nashville, I didn't think I'd fit all my stuff in my Jeep. I
had to get a U-Haul trailer and then make another trip.
That was a suggestion I could have done. But I filled it up all the way when I moved down, and then when I got down there, I bought a chest of drawers and a nightstand, and I had to take that back with me. And I was like, there's no way this is going to work. But it worked. I don't know how.
Add too much stuff.
Half my stuff is just T-shirts.
I have a lot of pictures.
No, I don't have pictures. I have 2 pictures.
I have a lot of Alabama paintings.
I expect that from you, but yes. So he is my good buddy Taylor here is a huge Alabama fan. I'm sorry. And
slightly obnoxious.
Yes, very. No. I meet a whole lot more obnoxious Alabama fans. You have a brain. Other Alabama fans do not. Because I remember when, our listeners know I'm a WVU fan. When we played each other a few years ago, you didn't run your mouth. You kind of was like, I don't know why. You knew you were going to win. I knew that y'all were going to win too. But you were at least like, they show up for these big games sometimes. I don't know.
It's worse when you don't say anything because then the other person's just waiting for you to talk smack, and if you don't, they're just sitting there.
I remember people making fun of me that WV would keep that game close, and it happened, and then...
I honestly don't remember that game.
You don't remember it? Well, I do, because I was there. But yeah, so we have you on to talk college football. The media days have almost all but wrapped up, and the preseason polls have come out, all but the Pac-12, unfortunately. So we only have 4. We can cover the Pac-12 a little bit, but that's West Coast. We're East Coast guys. We don't really know what's going out there. But we're gonna do this in alphabetical order, starting the ACC, and then we're gonna wrap up with your SEC. So first, ACC. No surprise, Clemson has the most first place votes in the ACC with 135, followed by, and they're picked to win the Atlantic Division, followed by, and that's actually a huge drop-off. Second is Miami with 5 first place votes, who are picked to win the Coastal Division. The most after that is NC State, who is picked to finish 3rd in the Atlantic. And then after that, Florida State and Virginia Tech are tied with 1 first place vote each. Florida State picked to finish 2nd in the Atlantic. Virginia Tech picked to finish 2nd in the Coastal. Anything jump out to you with this, Taylor?
I don't think Florida State would finish 2nd. I would pick NC State to finish 2nd. Florida State has a new head coach. They were not good last year. That Francois kid, he's still not cleared to play. So he still has that injury he's dealing with, and we saw how terrible they were without him. I don't think they're going to do well. Actually, I would put Florida State below Boston College and ahead of Louisville.
That's another. We can get to them later. Louisville 5th might be generous for them, but let's just stay on topic. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Florida State, I think they're just kind of there just as they finished 2nd or 3rd in that division the last few years. They've had some success with Jimbo Fisher. They obviously have a lot of talent, but like you said, I won't be shocked if they lose 3 or 4 games this year.
I think they'll have another 7-win season.
I don't know. I think they won 6 last year? No, they didn't win.
Six in the regular season.
No, I think they won 5. I think they finished like 5-6 and then got to a bowl game.
No, they had 7 wins. I just looked it up.
Okay. I thought that they had something weird. Like they
did. They rescheduled a game and got 6-6. I think
that sounds right. They scheduled like a game against UL Monroe, and I think you're right though. I think they because of hurricanes, like they had one that was canceled, and then the other you can't cancel 2 games, so they had to postpone it. That's right. I think I'm right there. But I think, like you said, I'm not sure about Florida State. This could be another 3-4 loss team. I like Willie Taggart as a head coach. I just don't know what he's going to do in his first year.
It's a first year. It's a whole new system on a team that finished poorly.
And I believe he's a spread offense kind of coach, and Jimbo Fisher was more of a pro-style offense. So it's just, if Francois can play, I think they can make a smooth transition. He's probably more of a spread offense quarterback anyway, because he can move. But I'm with you.
I think they'll be on track next year, just not this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Florida State's a weird team. I saw someone post their preseason rankings. Not like AP or USA Today. It was some writer. He had Florida State at 25, and I was like, that might be too high.
Yeah, I think that's way too high.
I think it's fair with the amount of talent they have, but I think that is way too high. But you said, I want to touch up on this. You said you'd have Boston College in 3rd. I've actually done some research. Boston College apparently finally has a decent team. They always seem to have a good defense, but this year I read that they actually have a quarterback for once. I don't know. I don't know.
That's why I pick them above Florida State, but NC State's just been consistent the past couple of years. No matter who they lose, they're just consistently a good team.
Yeah, that's one game that will really determine my Mountaineers season. We have to go to NC State the 3rd week.
They're tough.
Yeah, that's a game like I think we'll win just because of Will Grier. But if we lose, I would expect another 7-5 season. If we win, I'd say we could, that's a good chance we'd win about 9 or 10 games.
NC State to me is like South Carolina in the SEC. If you're not careful, they'll upset you.
You don't know what you're going to get from either of them. And NC State has a quarterback that a lot of NFL scouts like, in Ryan Finley. Doesn't make very many mistakes. He's very accurate. He's not flashy, though. He doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns. I think his stat line last year was 19 touchdowns, like 6 or 5 interceptions. He just doesn't make very many mistakes, but they lose a lot from that defense. Bradley Chubb, they lose the entire defensive line. Bradley Chubb, top 5 pick. I think they lose a linebacker or 2, but most of their returning starters are in the secondary, so that'll be interesting. But so that's the Atlantic. Anything else stick out to you?
I actually think Miami would beat Clemson in the championship game.
Really? Well, that's the Acosta. I meant for the Atlantic division. Anything else stand out? Louisville might be too high. That's going to be
yeah,
I think they're going to have a rough season.
But Syracuse, I think, loses a lot, and Wake Forest is trash.
Yeah, Wake Forest does lose a lot from a team that surprised a lot of people and finished about 7-5 or 6-6 last year.
But Louisville's whole team was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and he's gone, and they opened the season with Alabama. That's
going to get spanked.
That's not going to be good.
It's not going to be close.
Nope. So let's move on to the Coastal Division, where you just said you like Miami to knock off Clemson. I think in the ACC Championship, expand on that.
Just Miami had a strong showing last year. Their offense was a little weak versus Clemson's defense. But Miami returns a ton of starters, just like Clemson, and I don't trust Clemson's quarterback. He's a worse Jalen Hurts.
Did you see Miami's quarterback last year?
It was a first year under Mark Richt. I think they're going to get better, and it's not like Clemson blew him out of the water the whole game. I just think Miami's going to win it this year.
I don't even remember that game. What was the final score?
I think Clemson pulled away at the end. I don't remember the final score, but it was close till the mid-4th quarter.
I don't remember. I feel like I watched it, and maybe Clemson, pulled away, and I forgot about it. I don't remember. But I'm not surprised. I think Miami's likely going to win that division again. there's nobody. This used to be the tougher division in the ACC, and I don't really see anybody outside of Miami that could contend with them outside of Virginia Tech.
I think Virginia Tech returns a lot of starters, but
Virginia
they lose
Tech
some on that defense. Always hyped. They're like Tennessee. They're hyped every year to do good, and they don't.
I disagree. I think Tech is hyped a little bit, but I think they at least under this new coach, I think they've kind of delivered. But yeah, like in the later Beamer years, I'm with you there. That was like the Fulmer years. They needed a change, and it was about 3 years too late. But Virginia Tech, they just lose a lot from that defense. Tremaine Edmonds is gone. They lose the other Edmonds brother, who is a safety. They lose a starting corner. But Bud Foster always puts together a good defense. It's going to have to do a lot.
I mean, they're going to be a good team. Yeah. I just don't. They deserve second because the rest of their division is terrible.
I believe they host Miami this year because I believe Virginia Tech went there last year. Whoever wins that game is likely going to win the division.
Yeah, probably.
And then rounding out the rest of the division is Georgia Tech, Duke, Pitt, North Carolina, Virginia. Really, none of this is surprising. Georgia Tech.
See, to me, you can make an argument for any of them being third because they're all not good.
Yeah. Georgia Tech, once they have a down year, they always seem to bounce back with Paul Johnson. Duke has a good coach, David Cutcliffe, but I just don't know what to expect from them. I feel like they have a good quarterback. I don't remember what's going on there. Pitt's Pitt. I'm not gonna talk about Pitt. North Carolina, Larry Fedora had that program rolling a few years ago, and now they've hit a wall. Virginia, very surprising season a year ago. Bronco Mendenhall's a good coach, but I think they lose a lot. They lose their starting quarterback. Just who knows with that team.
I think ACC has a down year this year.
Yeah, this has been a conference that has really taken a 180. Taylor, you know this specifically because you know me so well. I used to bash this conference all the time, and now I wouldn't say it's the best one, but I'd say it's way more respectable now than it was 6 years ago.
It was, but I feel like this is their down year.
Yeah,
every conference has one.
There's 2 teams I think in here that'll be good: Clemson and Miami. Yeah. Who knows with Florida State? Who knows with NC State? And Georgia Tech, I don't really know. I think
by year's end, I think the ACC only has 2 ranked teams: Miami and Clemson.
Really, you're going to go with just 2?
Yep.
I think that won't shock me. I think those are the only 2 teams that get in a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah.
So we're kind of on pace with ACC. Let's go to my conference now, the Big 12. I know you are not a huge fan of it. But we can talk about that anyway. So Oklahoma, to no one's surprise, was picked to finish first. My Mountaineers picked to finish second. I was shocked we were picked to finish that high. I thought for sure Texas would be picked to finish second. Followed by TCU, then Texas, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, who got 2 first-place votes, even though they finished 6th. Iowa State, which seems pretty low. Texas Tech, Baylor, and Kansas. Again, no one's surprised Kansas is 10th. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Oklahoma lost a lot of people.
Yeah,
namely Baker Mayfield. And this is going to be the real test of their new coach. Was it Riley?
Yep, Lincoln Riley.
I wouldn't put him first. I would put y'all first or Texas first over Oklahoma.
See, it's becoming to the point where I think the Big 12 is like the SEC. Until someone else knocks off Alabama or Oklahoma, I'm having a hard time believing anyone else can. Anyone else is going to win that conference.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't win our conference last year.
Yeah. You essentially did, being national champs.
Yeah, but we didn't. It's hard to win a conference. And especially the Alls format now, where you have to play the team again in the championship. I'm not saying Oklahoma won't get there. I just don't think they'll win it.
Yeah, I don't know much about Oklahoma. Obviously, they lose Baker Mayfield, but they do return their leading receiver from last year, their leading rusher. I'm not sure what all they return on the offensive line. Defensively, I'm not sure either.
Their defense wasn't good anyways.
It was okay. It wasn't anything special.
But you're talking about a team that relied on Baker throwing the ball.
Yeah.
And who's their new quarterback?
Everyone thought
if he's a breakout star, then yes, they're going to do what they did last year. But if not, they're going to struggle.
Yeah, everyone assumed it's going to be Kyler Murray, and I saw him play last year. He torched WVU in the game in Norman. He came in a sub package or two and kind of like just ran a read option and burned us. He's a runner though. I'm not sure what kind of a thrower he is. He's only about 5'11". Who knows what you're going to get from him? But they have talent. But then Lincoln Riley said at the Big 12 Media Day that he is not the starter. There's, I think, a freshman up there who should be pretty good. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I just wouldn't think there would be 46 people that think they're winning it outright.
Apparently so. But yes, my Mountaineers are in second.
TCU's too high. Do you know how many people they lose?
I think they return a lot on defense.
Person.
They return a lot on defense, which was, I think, the Big 12's best defense last year.
I'm pretty sure they returned one offensive starter.
That wouldn't surprise me. They had a lot. They lost a lot last year offensively.
And Texas returns a lot of people. I think I would have put Texas above TCU.
Texas really doesn't.
I think they were like 7-5, like 7 offensive starters, 5 defensive starters.
I don't know. I know that they lost. Well, first of all, Texas doesn't have a quarterback. They have 2 quarterbacks who are decent. They're not going to carry a team. They don't have a run game. They lost their left tackle. They lost their best defensive player. They lost some guys in the secondary. They're loaded with talent, but you need a quarterback or at least a run game to win in this conference.
I just don't see TCU doing well this year. I think they have a down year.
See, I think TCU, Gary Patterson's probably the best coach in this league.
Right, but if you don't have the players.
I hear you. I think it could be West Virginia, TCU in the Big 12 championship. Maybe not.
My pick would be West Virginia, Oklahoma.
Probably. That's the last game of the year.
That's who I would pick in it. I think this would be the year. If y'all were going to do it, this is the year you would have to.
This is the year. We've mentioned this on the podcast before, where the stars, I think, could align for West Virginia. I think we are one of, I think, Texas, Kansas State, and Baylor are the only 3 teams in the conference that return a starting quarterback.
Which is huge because Oklahoma State's starting quarterback was fantastic.
Yep.
Oklahoma, obviously. And, I mean...
We return a lot offensively. We got, 2 guys who are... Well, one guy who was a 1,000-yard receiver, another guy who was a Biletnikoff finalist. We have a decent run game. We returned 4 starters on the offensive line, but, again, question marks on defense. But, and that's been what I'm worried about with this team is their defense, but as my co-host James has said, nobody in the Big 12 has a defense. So he's not wrong. I hear his argument. But
yeah, I agree with the top 2. And I mean the rest, the Big 12's offenses lost so many guys that it's just kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah. This could potentially be a bad year for the Big 12. One team, I think, well, I'll say 2 teams that I don't think are getting enough respect are Iowa State and Texas Tech. Iowa State has a pretty good running back. They had a decent defense last year. I think they have a great coach.
They have a good third-string quarterback.
Yeah.
Slash linebacker.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still there or not. Texas Tech should actually have a decent defense this year, and Cliff Kingsbury knows how to field an offense. I could see them being a surprise, but Kansas State, as much as I respect Bill Snyder, I think the ship has sailed with Kansas State.
Same. But it's just what, these guys are just going off of years past. It's hard to put an Iowa State and a Texas Tech higher when they just haven't been.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement. Probably Oklahoma and West Virginia are the best teams in that conference. But a lot of question marks surrounding this league. I don't think the Big 12 gets a team in the playoff.
I think they do if West Virginia is the one doing what they're supposed to do, since y'all play Tennessee.
Well, we played Tennessee and NC State in the out-of-conference.
Right. So if you win your games that you're supposed to win, I think that gets you in. But I think you're the only team. Just because your out-of-conference schedule is tougher.
Oklahoma plays FAU, who's at least, respectable.
It's FAU.
I'm just saying they're at least respectable, and they got UCLA, but I hear you.
I mean, Oklahoma will get in because of their name if they win games.
You're
but
right,
outside of that.
And you're right about West Virginia's out of conference. And our schedule is somewhat favorable. We get Oklahoma at home, TCU at home, Oklahoma State is at home. No, I'm sorry. Oklahoma State's on the road. Oklahoma, TCU, Kansas State, Baylor, and Kansas are all at home. And then Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas Tech are on the road, including NC State on the road. So it's just
if you win the games you're supposed to win, you'll get in. But
I'm not sure.
But I wouldn't pick a Pac-12 team to get in over y'all.
I would. Washington.
Auburn's gonna smoke them.
I'm not so sure about that. Well, all right. So moving on, Big Ten. Ohio State gets Wisconsin. That doesn't sound right, but if I type this right, Wisconsin has the most first place votes in this preseason poll with 28, and they are picked to win the Big Ten West division, I guess, as well as the conference. Followed by Ohio State with 23.5, and they are picked to win the East. After that, it is Michigan State. Wow, actually, with 2 first place votes picked to finish second in the East. Michigan with 1.5 first place votes picked to finish fourth, and then Penn State with 1 first place vote picked to finish third. If I'm being honest, Taylor, Wisconsin has the most first place votes. I don't think they win the West this year.
Who would you have? They return a ton of people. It's like
they have no quarterback.
Iowa has a good. Need a quarterback.
Iowa has a good quarterback. They're the exact same team. They run the ball well. They have a good offensive line. They always have a good defense. Difference is Iowa actually has a good quarterback. And they get Wisconsin at home.
Returns like 15 starters. I think Wisconsin wins.
I don't know.
At least gets to the championship and embarrasses themselves again. Playing white boy football.
I don't know their schedule, but yeah, they always have a clear road. I'm not sure who they have an out of conference. I think BYU.
But that doesn't affect their conference.
No. And then in the East, I'm not sure who they play in the East. I think it's Michigan State. I think they avoid Ohio State. They've played Michigan the last 2 years, so it's unlikely to be them. They might play Penn State, but I want to say it's Michigan State, which is winnable. But
I just seeing Wisconsin play in the conference championship last year, they're not a good football team. But
they beat Miami in the
schedule.
Orange Bowl.
They have an easy schedule.
They do. But I'm not sure. I'm really leaning toward picking Iowa to win that division. And I don't really know much about Iowa other than that they have a good quarterback for once.
I think it's still Wisconsin.
To win that division, I'm assuming?
Yeah, not the championship.
Yeah, I don't. It's either going to be Wisconsin or Iowa. I think Nebraska, with Scott Frost being there in his first year, is a year, maybe two away. Northwestern is competitive. They're not really one to win a division. And then Purdue, who surprised a lot of people last year, I just don't see it. They need more time. Minnesota, Illinois are probably going to be bottom feeders again, even though I like PJ Fleck. But yeah, and let's go to the more competitive Big Ten East division. I'm actually kind of surprised Ohio State. I shouldn't say I'm surprised, but I thought Michigan would get more votes. They return a lot, and they have a quarterback now, Shea Patterson.
I think Jim Harbaugh is an overrated coach. Point to a season where he did well.
His first 2 years, they won 10 games.
In a down conference.
No. The second year it wasn't.
The
second year, the Big Ten got 4 teams in a New Year's Six bowl.
I always think this conference is overrated, Big Ten.
I disagree, but...
I mean, besides Ohio State's championship year, all of their teams get whipped in bowl games.
But bowl games are weird. I hear you, but bowl games can be weird. You got 3 weeks off. It affects chemistry. Teams aren't physical. They don't want to get people hurt before the game. So tackling's an issue come bowl season. But I hear your point. I think
it's top heavy in the East. That's it.
Yes.
Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, and Ohio State, and I think Michigan's overrated. So really, I think there's 3 good teams.
I don't think Michigan's overrated. I would pick them to win the East if they hosted Ohio State, but they have to go to Ohio State, and it just seems like every year I try to find someone else to pick, and I always end up picking Ohio State to win that conference. It just seems
I think
like
Michigan State could do it, but it's
Michigan
hard to
State
go
could.
against Ohio State.
They host Ohio State. That could decide the division.
I think Michigan State could do it, but I would pick Ohio State if I had to bet.
One team I think that's getting way too much hype, but I understand it, is Penn State. They've been great the last 2 years, but they have lost a lot.
Michigan.
What's that?
I still think they finish above Michigan.
I don't. I think Penn State's that 4th team.
I'd be fine with Michigan being 3rd. But this is where I think Michigan's overrated, because you will never put Maryland, Indiana, or Rutgers in the top 4.
No.
So, like, a Michigan bad year would be 4th in their division. I mean, those bottom 3 teams are garbage.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I mean, when's the last time Rutgers really won a game?
When Ray Rice was there?
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
I don't like Penn State that much. I get it, though. They have a returning quarterback. They've been successful the last few years. They got a lot of talent. But we're going to see what Trace McSorley can do. I don't think people realize how much talent he had there in that offense. Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, Deshaun Hamilton, all in the NFL now. His offensive line has never really been that good. Penn State hasn't, at least. So I don't even know how much they have returning on the offensive line. I'm not sure he can do it by himself.
I think Penn State will be a finish above Michigan, and I feel Michigan will have another 8-win season.
No, they'll win more than that. I think.
I think they have an 8-win season.
I'm not saying they'll get to the playoff. I think they could get 10 wins, because I believe they host Penn State. They do have to go to Ohio State and Michigan State, though, so that'll be tricky.
I think they lose both those games.
And I don't know who they have in the out of conference. Ohio State. You mentioned this. I don't think Michigan State is getting enough hype. They have 18 returning starters.
Yeah, they have a lot of returning starters.
D'Antonio can coach. They have a good quarterback, so that could be interesting. You actually make a good point with Michigan State. I might pick them to win the conference.
Oh yeah, Michigan opens with Notre Dame.
I'm picking Michigan to win that game. Notre Dame lost a lot. Quentin Nelson.
Michigan plays Wisconsin and Northwestern.
They lost 2 top 10 picks on the offensive line, and their starting running back, and their quarterback was not anything special.
But they do play Nebraska, so that is a win. And Rutgers.
Well, those 3 bottom teams right there, that's 3 wins. And
Rutgers,
they host
Indiana,
Penn State. I think they win that game. That's 4.
Maryland, Nebraska, SMU, Western Michigan. How many wins is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So see that by default, they're a 6-win team.
I could argue the same thing about Alabama.
That's fair.
Moving on, Pac-12. Even though it's not being released until Wednesday. I wanted to hold off until then, but then I remembered you have to go to Alaska here soon. But I'm going to throw this at you. We'll see if you agree. Washington is likely the favorite to win that conference.
Yeah, between them and Stanford, just because Stanford is every year.
Yeah, Stanford's always up there, but USC loses a lot from last year. The
I
entire
think the whole conference loses a lot.
The entire South is wide open.
Yeah,
USC lost a lot. UCLA has a new coach. Arizona State, new coach. Colorado, A few years ago, they surprised. Utah is always interesting. They have a good coach. They always string together 7-8 wins. They could potentially upset some guys, but I honestly think Arizona wins that division.
I hate saying that.
Yeah, I know, but Kevin Sumlin's not terrible. I think he got a bit of a bad rep at Texas A&M for the most part.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I think going to a new place is really going to kind of re-energize him.
I don't like going for first-year head coaches.
Yeah, I don't either. But they have – I'm not sure about the rest of the conference or that division, but they have a very special player in Khalil Tate.
Yeah, but I think Washington's the favorite.
I'm not saying Arizona's going to win that conference. I'm just saying Arizona could probably win the South.
Is Stanford in Arizona's division?
No, they're in the North with Washington.
Oh.
And then a lot of people like Oregon, but again, first-year head coach. They do have a good quarterback, but I don't, like you said, I'm with you. I don't like first-year head coaches.
Yeah. I mean, they're boom or bust. They either do really, really well or they don't at all, and I just don't like.
And it really hasn't been
There's
that
nothing
way.
to go off of. You're just picking that you liked what he did before. And usually they're not good their first year. Yeah. Usually.
Unless it's at a program, that has a lot of talent that just hasn't quite put it together.
Right. But Arizona, I wouldn't say had a lot of talent, and neither is Oregon when the other coach left.
I agree. But yes, I'm with you. Washington or Stanford, likely going to win that division. I believe Washington hosts Stanford this year. I believe that is right. That game's likely going to decide the division and maybe gets in the playoff. I don't know.
Pac-12 hasn't been in a while. I don't think they're going to get in.
They were just there 2 years ago. They played Alabama, Washington.
Oh, yeah. They got whipped.
Hey, they got out to a 7-0 lead. But then, they got whipped.
7-0 lead.
I was all aboard. I didn't pick Washington to win that game, but I was like, hey, watch out. They get out to that 7-0 lead, and I'm like, here we go. Watch out. It's happening. And then they proceed to lose 24-7.
Yeah.
So let's get to the main event. Your conference, the SEC, where your Alabama Crimson Tide is picked to win by a much larger margin than I thought it would be, with 193 first-place votes. Followed by Georgia with 69, LOL. And then Auburn with 14, South Carolina with 4, Florida with 2. If I'm being honest, this isn't very surprising.
No.
Maybe the biggest surprise is South Carolina getting 4 first-place votes and picked to finish second.
They finished second in that division in the East last year. Yeah, they finished second, and they ended the year with a win over Michigan.
What was their record? I thought it was like 7-6.
No, they're like 9-4.
Jeez.
I know. I said the same thing because I got in an argument with a friend the other day.
They're not any good.
They're not bad, but who are you going to pick? Missouri's terrible. Kentucky's Kentucky.
Missouri's got a good quarterback, but yeah, I wouldn't pick them because I think he's a one-man show. I'd probably pick Florida. I'm all in on Dan Mullen down there.
No, I think Dan Mullen's going to do a great job, but until Florida gets a quarterback, I'm not.
I hear you there. I think he could at least turn that around, halfway into his first season. They got talent down there, and you don't need a great quarterback to win the SEC.
South Carolina rolling.
What's that?
I said Muschamp already has South Carolina rolling. I think they finished second,
he's been there
but I think Georgia wins it by landslide.
No, I agree.
They're way in first.
And I'm not sure. I love Julian Lombardo. I'm not sure Georgia's going to be that good. Hear me out. I think they're still going to win 10 games because their schedule's a joke. I'm not sure they're going to be, quote unquote, as good as they were last year. You know what I mean?
Maybe not as good as they were last year, but their record's going to be the same.
I agree. I think they're going to win 10, 11 games, but you're going to be like, that's not nearly as good as they were. This team isn't nearly as good.
It's hard to say, too, though, because that freshman running back they have is ridiculous.
They have a good quarterback. They have a good running back. I believe they return a lot of offensive players. They lose a lot defensively. They do have a probably first-round pick corner in the secondary, but they lose Roquan Smith, Lorenzo Carter, Bellamy, like their entire linebacking core, a few defensive linemen, I think. Most of that front seven's depleted. And I have to see it to believe it first before I think Kirby Smart has developed an Alabama there in the East. And, he just has a factory of assembly line players who just come in and replace that production year after year after year.
Yeah, but they get Auburn at home this year.
I know, yeah, I agree. Their schedule is very favorable.
So I think they're undefeated come SEC championship time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't see them losing.
I thought the same. I thought they would lose at least 2 regular season games until I saw their schedule. And
it's too easy. Maybe they lose to Florida, but
that was the one game I was like, maybe, because I think Florida has a bye week going into that game. It's a neutral site. Just kind of a weird game, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know it's not going to be Tennessee. Have you seen Tennessee's schedule? Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Tennessee, I've mentioned this. I think Tennessee could be that team. Like, they're a lot better than they were last year, but they might not be on the win-loss column.
It won't show. They're going to field half a football team by the time they play Alabama. They start with y'all, and then they get basically 2 weeks of crap teams. Then they play Florida. Then they play Georgia. Then they play Auburn. Then they play Alabama. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
That could easily be a 2-4 start. I believe you named 6 teams.
Yeah.
That could easily be a 2-4 start. 2-5?
Yeah.
I think Tennessee could finish 5th. I don't know much about Kentucky. I do like Jeremy Pruitt. There's a part of me that is a little worried about that Tennessee game to start the year.
If their schedule wasn't so tough, they're going to be a better team than what their schedule shows. Just because you're playing Florida, Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama all in a row. Yeah. I mean, that's insane.
But that at least means the back half of their schedules should be favorable.
Yeah, if they still have a football team by that point.
I don't know. Who do they got? They play Ole Miss. Is that right? Is Ole Miss there? No, it's Alabama. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're their year in and year out opponent.
Yeah.
And Auburn is their other one.
Yeah, they could finish 5th. I'm not sure where that Tennessee-Kentucky game is. I think it's in Knoxville.
Kentucky's decent. They'll upset you if you're not careful. And it just depends on how much of a team Tennessee has. I bet they're beat up by the time they're done playing Alabama after playing all those other teams before them.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of wraps up the East. I think South Carolina's too high. I'm just not sold on Will Muschamp.
I am, only because who are you going to put there? Because I'm sold on Dan Mullen, but who does he have offensively to work with?
I don't think South Carolina has much offensively outside of, what's his name, Deebo Samuel.
I mean, it was enough.
Did they really win 9 games last year? I'm looking that up.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy. And they beat Michigan. So that should tell you how I feel about Michigan. That you're sitting there going, there's no way South Carolina came in second in the East.
Damn hell. 9-4, second in the SEC East. Wow. I would never have guessed that.
Yeah.
I thought they were 7-6 or 8-5.
Nope.
Wait. All right, so moving on to the West. Your Alabama Crimson Tide, to no surprise, is picked to win that division. If I'm being honest, Alabama, I think, is going to roll through their schedule. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and you're trying to convince me that they could stumble to like A&M or somebody else, and I'm telling you, no, they are going to win all of their games, likely the SEC championship, and be 13-0, go to the college football playoff again.
Yeah, but Nick Saban's had one undefeated team.
Not in the regular season. He's had several undefeated regular seasons.
Yeah, I guess that's true. No, he's had under Alabama. He's had 2 regular season undefeated seasons,
including SEC championship. I believe 2009. Wasn't he undefeated? No, not 2014.
No, when we lost to Clemson.
That's it. 2016.
Yeah.
Who'd y'all lose to?
Ole Miss. We lost to Ole Miss 2 years in a row.
No. That was 13.
Yes.
That was 14 and 15. 2016, because that was the year y'all faced Clemson.
And lost.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm thinking 2017. I'm sorry. I thought
last year we lost.
You're right. You're right. Wow, that's only 2. You're right. You're right.
No, I know.
2013 was the kick 6. Yeah, 2012 you lost to A&M. Yeah,
2011 we lost to LSU.
All right, you're right.
2010 we didn't even make it to the championship.
Yep, you're right.
I know.
But I don't like anyone in the SEC West. Auburn's okay, but that game is in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Auburn is a home team.
Yeah.
They are so tough on the road, but they lost a lot.
I think Mississippi State is tricky, but that game was in Starkville last year. It's in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, we get them at home. This is our easy year, so we alternate a hard schedule and easy schedule. This is our easy schedule. Our only tough thing is LSU on the road. We get A&M at home. We get Mississippi State at home. We get Auburn at home.
Ole Miss is terrible. Arkansas is likely going to be rebuilding.
Yeah, and it helps that Tennessee is playing up really hard teams before us.
That's a game. If they weren't having such a tough openings, to the season, if they played some more cupcakes and maybe played, Vanderbilt early, that's the game where I think it could be tricky. Like going into Knoxville, Jeremy Pruitt, former Saban coach, you don't really know what to expect. They'd be fired up, but they're likely, like you said, going to be 2-5, beat up, going to the Alabama game, and then Alabama's probably just going to roll over them.
If Tua starts, I don't think anyone touches us.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you is who is going to be the starting quarterback for Alabama? Who's going to be the starter for Alabama week 1?
It should be Tua. It's just part of me thinks that he's going to put Hurts in.
I don't see how he can put Hurts in when he put his balls on the table and put Tua in the national championship.
This is what I've heard, is Hurts looks really good in practice. When you put him in a game, he falls apart.
I believe that. Hurts seems like a guy who excels in practice. A lot of guys are like that, and then they get in the game, and they're just not the same. They panic.
It's all mental. He has the ability. He just can't get past the mental aspect of the game.
I don't know what it is. He's not a special thrower. He's got good legs. He can run.
No, he has good throwing mechanics. He can make enough
throws.
He has good throwing mechanics. It's just he can't make a decision.
Yeah, I think that's his issue. If I'm
in the stand seeing the open receiver before you, that's a problem.
I don't think he likes to. He's fits that Saban aspect to where he doesn't want to make mistakes, and that's essentially what Saban wants to do. Hey, don't go out there and kill us, and we're going to win the game with our defense.
Yeah,
but I think Hurts is too much like that.
Yeah, it's too much like that. I think Tua will start, but
Tua is that perfect mix. He might make a mistake, but he's clearly got that Showtime mentality. It was clear in the national championship where when the lights are on, and it's prime time, I'm going to deliver. And Hurts just didn't seem like that. I've never seen
a player, so he threw an interception in that championship game and then goes and puts his arm around Nick Saban. I've never seen a player do that, ever. They go and cower and hide. They don't put their arm around him and go, my bad, coach.
Who are you talking about, Tua?
Tua. Threw an interception, walks over the coach, puts his arm around him and be like, yeah, I didn't see that guy.
That move still surprising me, but I agree with you. I think it'll be Tua.
With Tua at our QB, we're too good everywhere else to lose a game besides maybe the kicker.
Yeah. If it comes down to a field goal,
we will lose.
Yeah,
we lose every game that comes down to a field goal.
It's not going to be Alabama's game. And has the kicker position been fixed this season?
Supposedly, but I've heard it before.
Yeah, I've heard that before too. I heard the same thing after the kick 6 with that one kicker. I'm not even sure his name. Like, man, this is the dude that's going to be really good. He can make it from 60 yards out.
We just ruined him. We're very good at ruining kickers.
Hey, at least that's a good position to ruin a player. You don't want to ruin a quarterback. You don't want to ruin a running back. You don't want to ruin a pass rusher. Ruin a kicker, it's not going to cost you much.
I beg to differ.
It might cost you a big game. You're still going to win 11 games a year, get to a big game.
Yeah, but it cost us I'm convinced we would have beat FSU had that dude made the field goal against Auburn. We were better equipped for him.
I think I forget how good Alabama was that year. I don't know. Florida State was pretty talented.
We lost on a fluke play.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
To a team that only lost, 6 to FSU? So it's not like you're talking about us getting blown out of the water.
No, I didn't say that.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Anyway, back to on top. Let's get on top again. Looking at the rest of the West, I think A&M might be getting too much respect. I don't know about you.
Only because of Jimbo Fisher, but I think Orgeron's a terrible coach.
Yeah, no. You don't have to tell me. I tell you all the time about Ed Orgeron and LSU, how they're fake every year.
Yeah.
They can give me all this crap. You got to go to LSU this year.
They never did. They should have never fired Les Miles.
No, not mid-season.
No, you can't fire a coach and replace him with a worse coach.
No, I'm with you there. I think it was time for a change, but you don't fire him mid-season unless you know you got somebody better. They clearly didn't.
I don't think they can get anyone better. Would you want to have to play against Auburn and Alabama year in and year out and recruit against Nick Saban?
Well, if I'm being honest, I think LSU could easily be a better program over Auburn, not necessarily Alabama right now. There's no reason.
But if you're a big-name coach, would you want to go even live in Baton Rouge? Out of all the programs that are out there, there are easier routes to winning. And especially with the expectations of LSU of being the best, that's a lot.
Let me be clear. I've never been to Baton Rouge. I've only been to New Orleans one time. I've been to Tuscaloosa plenty of times. Tuscaloosa's nothing to brag about.
Yeah, but we convinced Miss Terry to stay here. It's the only reason we have Nick Saban.
I've never been to Baton Rouge. It might be a very lovely place. I'm sure you've been there. I have not, so I can't speak on it, but get off your high horse if you think Tuscaloosa is anything special. You don't have to go very far in Tuscaloosa until you're where you're like, oh, snap, this is, hick Alabama.
Touche.
Same with Morgantown, though. I love Morgantown. I think it's very special, but you don't have to go very far until you see some toothless hillbilly.
Yeah, it's hard to go to a place that expects you to win championships when you know as long as basically Nick Saban's head coach, you're not going to.
I feel you, but
Gus Malzahn's the only coach to beat us consistently.
You're right. That's probably why Dan Mullen left.
Well, and it's hard to recruit at Mississippi State.
Especially
and
when
he's
you're
a Florida guy.
Especially when you're facing Alabama, Auburn, LSU. I'll say Ole Miss because they used to be pretty good every year.
The West is tough. It's just...
Yeah, I was just thinking, if Arkansas is 7th, that's damn tough. Because I think Arkansas could win some games this year. I like their coach.
Yeah, the West, I think, is the toughest division in all of football.
Yeah. You're not getting an argument from me.
Just all those teams, you're like, oh, those are good teams. They win bowl games. They're good consistently. But there's 7 of them. So you're going to have 2 not make bowl games each year? Which is insane.
Probably 1. I think I've seen where 6 make it, but...
Yeah, but then they're all 7 and 6.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't think Ole Miss can make a bowl game. If they could, do you think they would? In this year? If they could.
They won't. No.
I don't think so either. I think they're the worst team this year.
Well, I don't think their coach is very good.
I don't either. But
I would put Arkansas above Ole Miss.
I would too. I think Arkansas is 6th. LSU...
Ole Miss has the better talent. They're just not well coached anymore.
Yeah. And
coaching's everything.
I'm kind of surprised Mississippi State is 3rd.
It's just because you have A&M's a new head coach, and everyone's high on Mississippi State for some reason.
They got Fitzgerald, but a new coach.
Mississippi State. And Dan Mullen, to me, was the most underrated coach in the country.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to make Mississippi State win year in and year out with 3-star athletes is insane. But again, I wouldn't put A&M or LSU above them. So
no, I really don't like A&M. I think, who was I talking to? I think it was you, who was making the case Jimbo Fisher's incredibly overrated.
Oh yeah,
I think it was you.
And
I was on I'm on the Jimbo Fisher train that I thought he was a good coach, and then you were like, "Come on, dude! Outside of Jameis Winston, what has he done?" And I thought about it, and I'm like, damn, you're right. He really hasn't done much.
And supposedly a weak ACC conference.
He was winning 10 games, nothing really to complain about. He won a championship, and then you're like, okay, here we go. He's got his guys. He's going to start doing this, and it really hasn't been the case. He's let Clemson come in and dominate the ACC since then.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have much else. I've had you on for almost an hour, unless you got something else you want to talk about.
No, I mean,
this is your moment, man. I've bugged you to come on for a long time, and you've been saying whenever you talk about college football, bring me on. This is your spot.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the preseason, though. There's only so much to talk about.
I know.
We could talk ourselves in circles for hours. I think Alabama's going to win the SEC.
Let's start with this. Your preseason college football playoff is
Alabama, Clemson. And I guess if I had to go, Ohio State, and then I don't want to pick Oklahoma, but I feel like I have to. That fourth spot's always tricky.
Yeah. You can generally get 3 out of the 4 in the preseason. I'll tell you this, I don't think 2 teams from the same conference get in this year.
No.
I don't either.
Only because I think Alabama and Georgia play each other in the championship game.
Yeah. And if Georgia loses in the regular season and then faces Alabama, that'd be 2 losses. One right before the final poll. I think that would have to knock them out.
It would. A 2-loss team, I don't think's going to get in.
At some point it will. I'm just not sure I'll say this. I said this to Steven. I think this is going to be a very down year for college football. I think so too. We're all gonna love it. We're still gonna be very excited, but I think the product on the field is going to be very poor.
I think if you're gonna ask me what my top 3 teams are, I think Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson will be in the top 4 the whole season.
Oh no, I agree there. Clemson, I don't remember their schedule. I think might slip somewhere in the ACC. They always do, but I think their toughest opponent out of conference is Texas A&M.
Until they don't make it, I'm going to pick them into.
No. Yeah, I'm with you. That's the same. I said it about Oklahoma. That's become probably more so. The ACC has become like the Alabama conference. Like, I'm not picking anyone else but Clemson. I've done that. I've fallen for that before. I picked Florida State a few times, and they fooled me. I picked a few years ago. I picked LSU to win the SEC, and then they fired Les Miles in the middle of the season. I made a huge mistake. I'm not doing that again. I'm picking Alabama.
Yeah. And we get Auburn at home. Because Auburn's our weird game. It's weird. And we haven't lost to them at home in a long time. I think Cam Newton was the last time.
Auburn's got a tough schedule, man.
Yeah,
they have Alabama, they got Washington, neutral site, but essentially a home game, at Alabama. And then they get LSU at home. They have to go to Georgia. That's 3 tough teams right there. I'm not sure about the rest. Where do they play Mississippi State? Do you know? I think it's in Starkville. Because surely they wouldn't play Alabama and Auburn at home the same year.
You don't know that. Our schedules are weird. Since we added Missouri and A&M, our schedules have gotten weird.
You could have had somebody else.
At Mississippi State, though. You're right.
That's 4.
They're at Mississippi State. They're at Ole Miss. They're at Georgia. The end of their schedule is hard, but they get A&M at home. They get Tennessee at home. They get LSU at home. I don't know where they play Washington.
It's in Atlanta.
At home. So
you say Washington's
what makes their schedule hard is they're on the road at Georgia and on the road at Alabama.
Auburn won 10 games last year, didn't they? Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens this year.
No, I think they go back to 8-4.
I really like Washington this year. I don't want to say it because I don't want to piss off Steven and William, but I really like Washington. I think they could sneak up on them in Atlanta.
No, I think Auburn's back to 8-4.
I have to
or
see it
9-4,
from
whatever
Mississippi
that
State.
is.
I'll say 9-3. I'll say they beat Mississippi State in Starkville, just because I don't know what to expect from a first-year head coach. But yeah, I think Auburn's about 9-3 and second in the West.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, yeah, they'll probably get in a New Year's Six Bowl. I'll say 3 SEC teams get in a New Year's Six Bowl.
And I bet they lose their bowl game.
Depends on where they go. Because Georgia...
Hey, Gus Malzahn is 1-4 in bowl games.
Is he really?
Yeah, you know what his only bowl win is?
Don't tell me. He got there in 2013. He didn't win the bowl game there. 2014.
It's real close to home.
The Birmingham Bowl, 2015.
Yeah, it's the only one he's won.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're going to get a weird bowl. They might not even get a New Year's Six Bowl. Hard to say. I think Alabama...
It would fall to Georgia.
Well, yeah, I think Alabama gets in the playoff. I think Georgia gets the Sugar Bowl and probably faces Oklahoma. And then Auburn's probably going to get the Peach Bowl again. Maybe. No, probably not. The playoff is in Miami and Dallas.
I bet they're 8-4 and they get to a good bowl, but it's not a New Year's Six. They have a decent season.
That's fair. I think that's fair. I don't know if two. I think 3 Big Ten teams get a New Year's Six Bowl. Maybe 4. I only think 2 ACC teams. 2 SEC teams is 4. 2 Pac-12 teams is 6. I don't know. It's going to be a weird year, I think.
Yeah, it was a talent-heavy draft. There's a lot of players lost.
Yeah, so I asked you your top 4. If I had to go my top 4 or preseason playoff, I think I'd go Alabama 1, Clemson 2. Probably just because I have to. Whoever wins that Big Ten gets the 3 seed. And right now I'm leaning toward Ohio State. And 4, I'm going Pac-12. I say Washington.
You think Big 12's left out?
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't like picking my Mountaineers.
Yeah, I don't either.
Oklahoma probably going to win 9 or 10 games. I don't know what to expect from West Virginia. Right now, I say 9-3, and I don't think that's good enough to get a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We could easily win 11 games. We could also easily go 7-5. I don't really know what to expect. So, that's what I think.
I'm excited for football season to start.
Who's the 5th team you think that gets left out? That first team to get left out?
Georgia.
I
think they're the first team left out.
Yeah, I don't really see a team.
Because if the Big 12 or Washington's left out, it's because they have 2 losses.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 team winner is probably going to win, be 11-2, and that's not going to get you in.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia just has a weak schedule, man. They could easily be 12-1 and get left out.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll go 12-1. I think more 11-2. Yeah, that could be that 5th team. I could easily see them being top 4, heading into the SEC championship. Whoever wins likely gets in, and then Georgia loses and bounces out.
Yep. So I see.
So we're roughly on the same page. Give me a team just to keep you on. I do have to go to bed soon, but give me a team that you think could really surprise if you know of one.
I get Michigan State's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Let me look.
If they won their conference and got in, that wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I don't really see one in the ACC.
I don't see one in the SEC.
No. SEC, it's going to be your usual suspects: Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, likely. I don't think South Carolina has enough. Dan Mullen needs another year.
I think Florida could make a run where you're like, oh, could they do it? And then they're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose.
I think Florida goes about 8-4, 9-3, where it's a lot
better than what they've been doing.
Oh, yeah. I don't see one in the Pac-12 outside of Washington and Stanford.
No, I think what hurts you is the Big 12's down and the Pac-12's down.
I think you're right. I think it's going to come from the Big Ten, and Michigan State's a good pick.
Yeah.
I'll throw another one out there, though, and say Iowa. I know you don't like Iowa. I'm not a huge fan either with the way they schedule out of conference.
I like them because they upset people, but it's Iowa. I mean,
I'm very much leaning toward picking them to win the Big Ten West right now. It's happened before.
Yes, it has.
But yeah. So I'll let you go unless you want to keep talking.
That's all I got. Yeah, I need to get to bed. I got to wake up early.
What time?
5:45, I think.
I got to be up at 5 a.m. my time. 4 a.m. your time.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, so I'll let you go, man.
All right, see ya.
Later.